Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new Starfield video. So today we are working on the player housing section of a new outpost that has come together rather nicely with some pretty cool features. So let's jump into this one. Okay, so yeah, this is going to be the player housing section and a crafting area, specifically geared towards that sort of living space and collecting of stuff space, rather than production space or anything like that. It's come together in quite an interesting way with a pretty cool design, I think. So before we get into that, let's have a look at where we are. So we are here on the planet Nesoi, and we are continuing an outpost I started in a previous video, so I'll link that one around. That's my shipbuilder landing pad video. But yeah, this is quite a cool planet with some fun biomes and some decent local resources if you're bothered about that. For now, I'm just focusing on the building side. There we go, in the Olympus system, which is smack bang pretty much in the middle of the major star systems. So obviously you've got Alpha Centauri, Narian, Xion, Vole, Crix. They're all not far away at all, so it's a really good central spot here. So yeah, definitely happy with this for now. We're in the desert biome, as you can see, mostly chosen because I like the way it looks, and particularly it's bold, clear, and sunny. So that makes for nice, easy footage, you know, easy on the eyes. So we're going to start off with a small science hub to basically figure out where we're going to start with. This sort of spot is kind of on a hill a little bit at the edge of the build area, and I try to kind of position things so I don't bulldoze too much of the environment. Some of it will be coming back, but for now, that should be pretty good. Lift that up a little bit because this is going to be the lower section of the build, and we're going to work on putting a room on the top, which we can do using this 4-wall double hab, which is really quite handy as regards making multi-story structures. So by snapping that onto the side, you can now force the hydroponics hab there to snap straight onto the top of the science one I've got there, and then we take it off and look, we've got a 2-story hab. The one drawback is we don't have ladders. So you will have to make separate entrances for separate stories, which is a bit disappointing for now. I imagine we might get ladders at some point in the future, hopefully, Bethesda. And then if we could then choose which way around they faced inside the build, that would be great. But for now, separate entrances it is. So I've got an extra hallway on the side there, allowing me to sort of extend this next science hab at the top left there out a bit further. And would you look at that? There's an interesting idea. The airlock there seems to fit nicely underneath the upper level corridor there, hallway. That's quite cool. So, if I extend out this hallway a little bit, there we go, I can now snap that hab back on, and it goes over the top of the entrance to this lower one quite nicely. And it doesn't even need to be that far over. We can pull it over one more, because we get a little bit of hallway anyway when we snap on there. And it gives us a nice little compact 2-tower kind of design with an airlock in the middle, which looks quite cool. And there's an extra airlock to get into the upper story on the right there. And that's the core structure in place. I quite like that sort of concept. So, moving on from this, we're going to do a little bit of decoration here and dress this thing up, make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more visually intriguing. So I'm going to start with this storage container here. This is a warehouse, technically, or so it's classified as, but it's really just a shipping container, isn't it? And we're going to just nudge this up against the edge. These things are pretty substantial, and I tend to use them more for decoration than for actual storage, because the way the resource storage system works at the moment, and the whole shipping links between outposts and stuff, it's nightmarishly ineffective, so for now, I'm not even bothering with that. We're just going to use these as decoration items, but they work rather well in that regard. So I've got one in there. I'm going to snap this liquid storage onto the side, except that I don't actually want it snapped on. Having it the same height just looks a little bit too inorganic and uninteresting. So we're going to sort of use the snapping to leapfrog this away from the storage that we have over on the right there, the warehouse, which will allow us to get this place further out so that we can bypass the ridiculously aggressive snapping. And with that now lowered down, we're going to leapfrog using the rotate key to get this nice and close, except that unfortunately it's now too low and won't snap through the ground, which is a little overzealous in its placement restrictions, which is slightly annoying, but it is what it is. So that's not going quite the way I want. I'm going to go back to the starting point further away and rotate it using the ghost of its original position to kind of guide me. so that I can then position it at the other end of the warehouse there, which should alleviate the problem because the ground's a bit lower. Unfortunately, this will only snap onto one side, not onto the front or the back, or the two sides rather, not front or the back. So you have to grab this initial one again and rotate it back. There we go. That ghost should give us quite a clear position as to where we want it to be. That's about right. Now we'll grab this one again, snap it onto the side. Nice. And we can just use the rotate to kind of leapfrog this back into place to bypass the, as we can see, ridiculously overzealous snapping. He's hoping the rumoured upcoming patch will solve some of this problem, as well as some of the others that we'll be talking about in a second. Take that out. Nice. That's sat right next to the container there, but it's a little bit lower, looks a little bit more interesting and organic, and doesn't show quite so much foundation either, which is always a win. And it's partially hiding the foundation on this science hub as well. So I'm going to drop a scan booster on the roof here, which I'll actually end up moving over to the hydroponics hub, the glass one on the right there, just because it'll look a little bit better over there, and I'll be able to put a solar generator here instead, which will fit because the roof's a bit bigger on this one. So we'll change that in the decoration phase in a bit. For now, I'm going to drop this turbine in here, mostly as a decoration item more than a power item. There's loads of power, as you can see, in this outpost, and I don't really need very much, so I've got these mostly down just to make the whole thing a bit more visually interesting. Useful pro tip for basically all of Bethesda's base building mechanics, no matter the game, is if you place an item down and then move it afterwards, the game tends to have a better idea of where it is and how it interacts with other objects, so you can move things closer together more easily. So place it, then pick it up and move it. Just makes life a lot easier that way. We're going to nudge that in so it's reasonably close up to everything else. Should be about as good as we're getting, I think, with the underground foundation on the liquid container there. That's alright. We're beginning to frame the build, and I'll be putting another one on the other side later on. Just going to drag my outpost beacon into the middle here, as this makes a nice fast travel arrival point, and also makes a sort of bit of extra visual interest as well. So drop that in there. Cool. And let's grab another storage container, again, just for its decorative properties more than anything else. And we'll just line this up next to the staircase there. It's not quite where I want it, but now that I've got it placed, as you can see, I will be able to fine-tune it much more easily. Especially as I can now come over and sort of see down the back edge. When you can't see behind the thing, that does sometimes cause issues. I'm going to end up taking that light out altogether instantly and replacing it with wall-mounted ones, but there's some cool stuff relating to it that I did discover in the meantime, so I'll show you that in a moment. Yeah, you can see the storage bin here is jumping around a little bit and trying to snap to the stuff on the left. Depending on where you stand and where you're looking at it from, sometimes it'll be a bit more cooperative, so coming around the other side is often a good move if you want to position things with a bit more precision. There you go. Being able to see down the back there means I can put that nice and close to the scaffold that's holding the stairs up there. So, again, I'm going to get rid of this light later, but useful thing I did discover while I was placing it is that if we go up to the storage bin on the right here, look at that, the concrete base disappeared. And I think that's basically because it's interacting with the foundation underneath that storage bin. And it doesn't work for every object, but some of the ones that have those concrete bases, it will sort of function like this, so you're able to place things much closer. But it only works if you're placing things like the light after the other object. If you put the light in first, then the base stays there and gets underway. So let's shove this outpost beacon back in. If Barrett will move. I couldn't dismiss him during the course of building this, because I was midway through his ally quest, and that was extremely annoying. He kept getting in the way and driving me up the wall. Not the best AI on his part while I was trying to build, though. I would have told him to stand still somewhere out of the way, but that wasn't an option either, annoyingly. Oh well, what can you do? Anyway, with this outpost beacon in place, I think it's time I headed off and added a few little bits more detail, and we'll take a look at everything in the tour in just a second. So here we go, finished product, or almost finished product. One thing I have not done here is junk decoration, as the issue with it sinking into surfaces is still a bit of a problem. Obviously, being able to drop things on the floor, place them in build mode, and have them become static when you do that is a brilliant feature, but the tendency for stuff to sink into surfaces is very annoying, and I know there's a way to work around that with saving and logging out and stuff. It's not worth the hassle with a rumoured impending patch just around the corner. I have to say, those rumours, I've not heard any reliable sources on that yet, so we'll see, but it would be in line with what we'd expect, so fingers crossed. We do have a slightly odd bug going on there. You may have noticed in the foundation of this left-hand science hub, for some reason the bottom section of it has disappeared. No idea why. I just sort of randomly noticed it had happened, but very strange, but not actually causing any problems, just a tiny bit unsightly, so hopefully that'll get fixed. I added a few extra bits and pieces of decoration around just to sort of cluster things up, make it a bit more interesting and break up otherwise very straight lines, just to make it a little bit more organic looking. So I've got little clusters by the water storage thing there, a few bits and pieces over by the solid material storage bin. I really do quite like these hanging baskets I've got put up. There's a whole load of different hanging planters in the game, but most of them are just pots that are suspended, which is kind of what this is, but with the vines kind of things hanging down, I really like the look a lot better. There's a nice bit of colour contrast to it as well, which is cool. So, yeah, really quite a cool little thing to have up there to add a little bit of visual interest. Speaking of, I've got a few extra bits and pieces on the stairs here, because they're otherwise quite bland, so I do like to add a little bit on there. I'm going to head up here and take a look at what will be our crafting area inside here, with our living space on top. I do like how these structures interact with each other and sort of overlap each other. It's quite cool. I'm looking forward to playing around with this some more and seeing what fun things we can build going forward. Let's mosey on in here. The airlocks look really quite cool and they make a lot of sense, but they are a tiny little bit of a drag after a while when you've gone through them and in and out a bunch of times. So, Science Hub as crafting space. I've done this concept, or having a crafting space in Science Hub before, but I do quite like the way it works. Gone for the flat walls this time rather than angled ones, because then I could put more decoration on there, which is definitely an improvement. I tried to avoid having a repetition of my previous build, so I went with a central island there for the crafting benches, or 4 out of the 5. And I've kind of picked a specific set of positions based on collision, so that I can push them as close together as possible. And it worked really quite nicely. Obviously, with them all in the centre, it leaves a lot of space around the outside, so I put a few bits and pieces there to make the space a bit more interesting. A whole bank of workstations looks quite cool on the left there. I really do like the visual effect of that. Very sci-fi. Again, got a few bits and pieces of decoration around. Unfortunately, this desk here on the left, which is an Outpost companion crew member's workstation, we can't actually put anything on the surfaces of it, which is very, very annoying. So if Bethesda would kindly fix that in the upcoming update, fingers crossed, that would be great. But otherwise, that's the last one I can fit in. So I've got 3, I think, now, maybe 4 in my Outpost, which is quite cool. Gives it a little bit more interest. A little bit of decoration on this side in form of a weapons display, which I quite like this one, actually. There's a lot of dead space in it, but it's neat and looks quite cool. I do like it. Although I feel like the weapon should be flipped the other way. Really like that security outfit on the mannequin there on the left. That's very, very cool. One of my favourite outfits I've found so far, that one, actually. Definitely cool. And, yeah, I do like this central concept for the crafting benches having the backing onto each other in the middle of the room. They look really quite cool there, especially with the lighting catching them. It's sort of slightly dimmer towards the outside with focused lighting in the centre, so I do quite like the design. Obviously, this place would have come to life a lot more if I had junk decoration in it, but, yeah, fingers crossed the sinking issue will be resolved soon, and I will actually junk decorate it. Once I finish this outpost fully, because there's a couple more things I want to build in it, then we'll do a finalised tour to show off the whole finished product on down the line. But, yeah, hopefully the junk decoration will be in place for that. I mean, failing an update, I will eventually bite the bullet and do it anyway. But for now, I'm crossing my fingers on an update. Yeah, I've got to say, I do quite like the sort of shape and the look of this, and the way everything interacts. It's come together quite nicely. So see around the back here, I've put an extra wind turbine in on this side as well to sort of frame the whole build off. Come together quite well. Some of the local wildlife making a little bit of noise around here. The twist fins seem to have disappeared, which is a bonus. There were a bunch of them hanging about on this hill prior to my actually putting this structure in place. So I was a little worried about that. We'll see whether or not they reappear. But for now, they've gone elsewhere, which is definitely a win. And we'll make our way up to the upper level. Not quite as much stuff on this staircase, but I don't want them to be exactly the same. So variety makes for a more organic look. do love some of the little details on some of these pieces, like the cabling and stuff on the airlock here is quite fun on the outside. And we'll head into our living space. So this is our primary living space. I feel like I could do separate habs for separate functions, but they would then be perhaps a little bit too big compared to the amount of sort of decoration objects we have available. So I've got a little bit of extra decoration in this corner. I'm going to move a bunch of stuff I've yet to sell in terms of contraband into that chest eventually. Got my little kitchen area over here. So kind of closed off with a couple of medical tables to create kind of breakfast bar type vibe there. Coffee machine as well. I'll add some more junk decoration eventually, as I say, to make this a little bit more visually interesting, but you get the general idea for now. The cooking station at the back there is the functional actual crafting station. Little dining area in the corner here. I hadn't realised initially, looking at it in the menu, that this was a blue tabletop. But once I placed it down and it actually caught the light, you can obviously see it. And we've got nice blue chairs there to match it. Looks quite cool, I reckon. Nice views out here, which is why I wanted to build my living space here and have it at the top with the sort of glass walls, because just to take advantage of the scenery, even if it is in a desert. A nice little lounge space there, which is quite cool. I am annoyed that it says those chairs can't be, the sofas rather, can't be interacted with because the entrance is blocked by the coffee table. But there's clearly more than enough room, so that's kind of an aggravating setup. What can you do? Loads of shiny posters in my corridor here. I feel like I need one more set of shiny posters, but I ran out without duplicating things, so Space Frog will have to fill up the remaining gap. It did come out quite nicely. A slightly weird flickering issue there as we sort of transition between the cells, which is a bit unfortunate, but not problematic. Once you actually cross the threshold, it disappears, so it's fine. I do like this bedroom space. It's kind of clean and tidy, but also reasonably homely as well. I think adding junk decoration when I get to it, to harp on about this a little bit, will definitely add a little bit more an interesting lived-in vibe to it. But I do particularly like these display cases we've got here. Added the mission board and the bounty board as well, because they're useful to have around and they make for a nice bit of decoration. Got a couple of things on that display case that are the wrong way round, which is slightly disappointing. They're facing backwards. You wouldn't normally put that space shuttle on there facing away from you, for example, but this is what it is. Yeah, looking forward to adding some extra bits to the bedside tables with junk decoration and stuff as well. Added that little globe is really nice, but it's not really big enough to stand on the floor on its own without looking really small and weird, so a little side table there kind of dressed that up a bit. Chucked a couple of extra dumbbells by the weights there, which is literally the only piece of junk decoration I did in here, other than putting stuff on those shelves as well. Because I felt it was necessary, and there's no point in trying to place those using the build menu, the dumbbells that is, as they sink into the floor when you do, so I just threw them down. But yeah, all in all, I quite like that bedroom. Clean and quite a little clinical, but also kind of somehow manages to be homely as well. As I say, once I come back and junk decorate, it will complete the vibe on down the line. But for now, I really do quite like the structure and the relatively homely vibe of it. I've stored a few things here already so that I don't have to lug them around with me, and I can come back and pick them up should I need them. I'm going to move a few more in time as well. Get a little look at my landing pad over there. As I said earlier, I will link to that on the card in the top right corner, and if I remember, down in the description or in a comment as well, if you want to check that out. It's the other build we've done on this outpost so far. Came out rather well, I think. It looks pretty cool. And yeah, there will be at least one more, if not more than that, video coming on the rest of this outpost with some more interesting features to dress it up and make the whole thing look a little bit more complete as we progress. There we go. Yeah, that weird foundation bug notwithstanding, this little structure, in my humble opinion, looks quite nice, I think. So there we go. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. If you did, please do consider dropping subs and likes. I very much appreciate. Loads more Starfield content coming, both in videos and in live streams. And of course, we're continuing playing Fallout 76, doing builds and streaming and so on that side as well. So I do hope you join us for those. Down below, as always, social media links, merch store, and channel memberships on the various buttons if you'd like to hit those, and notification bell. I really appreciate the support. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.